Eden Memorial Chapels understands Jewish funerals can take many forms. Some are very Orthodox, while others are more conservative or of a Reformed nature. There's no one better in New York or New Jersey. Go to EdenMemorial.com.
This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Joining us now is the Executive Director of the North Carolina Faith and Freedom Coalition and a very good friend of mine. I've had the opportunity to work with him over the years. Please join me in welcoming Jason Williams to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Now, Jason, I wanted you on the show today for several reasons, and not the least of which is that you're in North Carolina. North Carolina suffered and apparently is continuing to suffer as a result of Hurricane Helene. And I just wanted to get a sense from you on what it was like and what is going on in the northwest part of North Carolina, and what, in terms of help, what have you seen? You're on the ground, you're a religious person, you're not going to lie to me. Whereas political people, I never really trust.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you reaching out and having me on to kind of talk about what's happening in our state here. And I will say, our organization, the North Carolina Faith and Freedom Coalition, we were on the ground when the disaster hit. When that hurricane came through September 27th, it was supposed to be the opening session of our annual Salt and Light Policy Conference, an event that you've been a part of.
I've been a part of. Yep.
You have. Yeah, matter of fact, last year you were a keynote speaker, and it was at the exact same location in the mountains of North Carolina, McDowell County, that you came to last year. And so we had great speakers lined up this year: Ben Carson, Pete Hegseth, Joe Concha, those guys. It was going to be a great event. We were expecting a great crowd, and the forecast was originally that the storm would hit further west, and we would only experience maybe some rain. But Friday morning, we woke up to no power. We had no cell signal. Trees were down all over the place. Roads were blocked. It was just a complete mess here in North Carolina. And for us, fortunately, since we had prepared for about 2,000 attendees at the conference, we had rented hundreds of chairs and tables and a lot of other equipment for the first responders who were able to immedially utilize that church.
Fantastic.
And we had some food prepared to be able to take to nearby shelters and feed some of the helpers and many of the folks that were first on the ground here in western North Carolina. So I would say for the response, unfortunately for over a week, FEMA was nowhere to be found, and it was faith-based.
I want you to say that again. I want you to say that again, Jason Williams.
Yeah, well, again, I would say categorically, for over a week, FEMA and frankly, really very little government help was nowhere to be found. And it was faith-based groups like Samaritan's Purse who really stepped up and helped the people of western North Carolina. Organizations like Baptist on Mission, Hearts with Hands, Catholic Charities, they were the first ones on the scene. And even folks like Representative Corey Mills, who I think was on your program recently, and Tulsi Gabbard,
who's on today.
On the show. Yeah, they were out here working and serving. Congressional candidates like Mark Harris and Pat Harrigan, Lieutenant Governor, canceled campaign events to get out here and help. And they were really, an example of what we're supposed to do when those hit. I read a quote recently from someone who said, and I don't know if this person even claimed to be Christian, but he said, if heaven forbid you should experience a disaster, your odds of getting help in a timely fashion is directly proportional to the number of Christian churches who are in proximity to you. And thank God they did. We aren't fortunate enough to have a governor like Ron DeSantis in Florida. We have a governor who,
the one who gets it done. But
and our governor slow walked this effort, and Governor DeSantis actually sent up some of his own people to our state.
He's a good man. He's a good man. What's going on right now? I understand there are still 85 people missing in the western part of North Carolina.
Yeah, and that number, we don't really know the accuracy of that number. We're trying to get some answers. The government's not really given us, a lot of straight answers. So we're trying to figure that out. But, yeah, there's many people that are still missing, people that are turning up. And, it's still it's a sad time for them. But look, Western North Carolina, these are resilient people. They're already
but
out
my
there.
gosh, if they don't have a house, Jason, I lost my house in a flood. We had no food, no water. I mean, the government's not there. Who's feeding them other than the churches? I hear you, but where is their hope? What do they look forward to? Well,
look, I mean, many of these people, to your point, are completely displaced. I mean, there were towns that were completely wiped out. I mean, you saw the devastation in Asheville, where you were just at, recently.
Yes.
And you saw that firsthand. And you're right, those people, they are struggling, and it's going to be a lifetime before they're able to rebuild some of that. They've lost everything. And, I heard a story of an entire family who moved to higher ground to try to get out of the area of the flood, and they had got to this particular area, and a mudslide came and just took the whole family out. And it's just heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching to hear that. But listen, at the end of the day, you got to move forward. You've got to rebuild, and
with the help of your
them,
government.
Look,
we just gave $500 million to Ukraine again.
Well, and the reality is that message is resonating with those people in Western North Carolina. Those folks, in the ensuing weeks, I think some of the concern has been, what does this mean for the election? And, a couple of weeks after this hurricane hit, many people started thinking about, what's going to be the political impact. And, our Republican legislature stepped up and allocated some funds for some stuff out there. But the sheer reality is, these folks are upset. They're mad at the federal government. Mm-hmm. They're really upset that there's been just a disaster of a relief effort. And, one of our supporters recently told us that these folks are so upset. I mean, they're going to crawl over broken glass through fire to vote for Donald Trump. They're so upset about what's going on out there. And it's sad. But again, we've got to move on. You got to rebuild. You've got to mourn those that we've lost, and it's heartbreaking, but
and you will do that. And I want to talk a little bit about the Faith and Freedom Coalition. And you're in charge. You're the executive director in North Carolina, Jason Williams. But we've got a presidential campaign going on right now. The evangelical vote is huge, and I know that Ralph Reed, who I love, is with his organization. You're going door to door for Donald Trump. How big is the evangelical vote? How much impact will it have on this election, and where is it going?
Well, so I will say definitively that no candidate can win the presidential election without the evangelical vote. It's a clear voting block, and for us, our organization, to your point, Faith and Freedom Coalition, we're kind of leading the way in the grassroots area to get out the vote. And, we want to make sure that Christians know what's at stake in this election. And to that end, we have knocked on nearly 7 million doors across the country in key battleground states. We plan to hit another 3 million doors between now and Election Day. In some states, we're focusing on mid to low to mid propensity voters. And we're going to knock on their door hopefully 2 to 3 times to remind them, hey, you've got to get out and vote. You've got to see what's at stake in this election. And, early voting started Thursday here in North Carolina, and you're already seeing record turnout in many counties. And gladly, even out in some of those Western North Carolina counties, you're seeing record turnout already from people. So, look, we're getting out there. We're telling people what's at stake, what's important. And look, evangelicals are not like monolithic, and they're not typically single issue voters like a lot of people may think.
Yeah, I think people do think that.
Sure. And, obviously with having a biblical worldview, we tend to be more pro-life or pro-family than maybe non-evangelicals. But, look, we're not immune to the everyday issues facing all Americans.
Like the economy, inflation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know my family. We've got 6 kids.
I know you have 6 beautiful kids.
Beautiful. They get that from their dad, and
and their mom.
Can you imagine? My wife's mood every time she has to go to the grocery store with the prices
that's not
that
funny.
are increasing. No, well, it's amazing.
Not funny. Yep.
A few of our kids are now driving age, and we're constantly having to fill up our vehicles with these surging gas prices. Our education system is broken. Haven't even mentioned the increased crime and chaos at the border. And look, so we're dealing with all of that. And so I think sometimes the media and people just try to put evangelicals like in a box and think that they're voting on, maybe one issue or 2 issues. But the fact is, we're dealing with all of this, and we're not immune to any of these things that are facing every American in this country.
Yeah. That's very interesting, that it's not monolithic. But there are some people that won't vote in the evangelical community, that won't vote for someone because of their beliefs in terms of, there was a lot of tension when Donald Trump first ran. People were like, he's
Sure.
this, he's that. And then all of a sudden you get this president who is, more focused on the church and religion and the values that are the foundation of this country, the Judeo-Christian ethics.
Absolutely. And look, we don't even have to go far to see the importance that he puts on religion and faith. And, just this week we saw at the Al Wilson dinner that Kamala Harris didn't even take the time to attend the event. She didn't even go to it. And obviously President Trump was there. And look, in 2016 when he ran, a lot of people just didn't really know where he was at on a lot of issues. And after he won that election in 2016, we really saw the promises made, promises kept. And he made a lot of our issues, as far as evangelical issues, he made those a priority. And we saw firsthand this man's heart. We saw what he believed. And he really proved himself to the evangelical community. We saw his support for Israel. We saw his support for life and all those things. So to your point, there were maybe some people skeptical and look, at the end of the day, there still may be, but look, this is a binary choice. We've got a decision to make in this election, and you look at it, and the choice is crystal clear who we need to vote for.
Well, I think that Christians across this country need to recognize the importance and the significance of the numbers and the impact they can have on an election, because it is huge. Final thoughts. I mean, between now and Election Day, the Faith and Freedom Coalition and Ralph Reed's Faith and Freedom Coalition. I mean, what you guys are doing, you're going to be knocking on doors for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, and I think, you've heard kind of the cliche that these races are won just through the blocking and tackling. And look, a lot of this stuff isn't glamorous, but look, it's just getting out there. It's telling people what's at stake. It's reminding them to go vote. And listen, we talk about my family and our 6 kids. And, I think very often about that Ronald Reagan quote where he said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. He said if we don't protect it, we'd spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was like to live in a land where we were once free. And, I used to think that was a very quote-worthy statement, but now that I'm seeing that was actually a very prophetic statement. Yep. And, I guarantee many people that are listening to this program, they've made the statement that, this isn't the country that I grew up in. They're already saying those things. And frankly, I believe that if we elect Kamala Harris to the presidency of the United States, we won't recognize this country by the time she leaves office. And I think just letting people know what's at stake, what are we voting on, who are we voting on, and making sure they know that know the importance of their vote. I mean, listen, in North Carolina, this race is going to be decided in the margins. Neither candidate has been polling outside the margin of error. We had a Supreme Court race in 2020 that was decided by 400 votes out of 5.5 million votes.
Wow.
That's 4 votes per county. And so I think we share people, that example, that race was decided by 4 votes per county.
Well said. Jason Williams of the North Carolina Faith and Freedom Foundation. God bless you and the people of North Carolina and what they're going through. And thank you for joining us on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Thank you so much, Jeanine. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Take care. Okay. And never forget, folks, that's the commitment we made on 9/11. Honor it by donating $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at t2t.org. That's T2T.org. And up next on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show, I will gavel out with my closing argument. It's all coming up here on the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's the Judge Jeanine Show.